question 24 for RPGaDAY 2016 is, what is the game you are most likely to give to others? Now, I'm sure it'll come as no surprise to people who know me, but I'm going to go for this game, Fate Accelerated. And there's a few reasons for that. The first of all is it's pay what you want and pretty much freely available in PDF format. The book itself, if you buy a hard copy like this one here, is very cheap. And if you look at the sort of thickness, or should I say lack of thickness, of this book, you can see that it's extremely handy. It's a pocket-sized book. It has everything you need to play it in just over 40 pages. And it's not a big A4 weighty tome like a D&D book. It's a small sort of digest size book. Makes it very easy to carry. Aside from that, all you really need is a character sheet, a pencil, and a set of 4 Fate dice. If I'm going to travel anywhere and I need to travel light, but I think I might be running a quick pickup game, I'll often take this book with me. I'll have a dice app on my phone, and that pretty much means I'm good to go. I can scrounge up a bit of scrap paper and a pen pretty much wherever I happen to be, or slip a small notepad into my pocket, and that'll be absolutely fine. In fact, there was a person on Google Plus, I'm sorry I forget your name, who recently showed that they had a very small tin. I think it was a snuff tin originally, and they basically printed out a small version of a cheat sheet, small character sheets, and had everything they needed, their dice, etc., all in this tiny tin. So I think that's a very good thing for it, that it's extremely portable. However, putting all that aside, if you're not bothered about portability, maybe you're happy with lugging a big bag full of books around with you, that's absolutely grand, no problems with that. It's your shoulder muscles that are beginning the workout, not mine. However, one of the reasons I would also recommend this is, as far as I'm concerned, it's a very easy game to pick up. It's setting neutral, so you can pretty much fit it to whatever genre you happen to prefer playing. You can create a random crazy setting, and Fate Accelerated will handle it. The character sheets take only a few moments to create. I'm not going to go into detail about the system here because I've done loads of videos on why I love Fate. You can check those out on my website if you wish. But basically, it's a very simple system. Fate Accelerated is an even more streamlined version of the Fate RPG game system. Now, I know a lot of people might say, oh, but John, Fate Accelerated has no skills. There's no huge fucking list of powers or anything that I can select from. There's no classes, there's no levels, yada, 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 etc. And to be honest, I would say, you're absolutely right. And you know what? So what? Who cares? I certainly don't. What I care about is if it's a game I'm going to give to someone, it's something I want them to play, it's something I want them to instantly be able to pick up and enjoy. It's very easy with just a quick, simple read through of these rules to start playing it. It doesn't require any great knowledge of RPGs beforehand. You don't have to be an old hand who's used to existing systems. All you have to be able to do is read that book a little bit carefully and understand it. And to be honest, it's not terribly difficult to do. Yes, there's a lot of options for expansion and delving deeper into the mechanics if that's what floats your boat. However, you do not have to. Basically, what it comes down to is, in Fate Accelerated, there are 6 approaches which define how your character does things. So these are things like forcefully, quickly, etc. If you can put a few numbers in those to define your character, and you can come up with a few aspects which are sort of sentences that sum up your character, then you will be absolutely fine in this game. Now, I know it's not to everyone's taste. Some people have said, oh, it's not really a role-playing game because you have to use the fate point mechanic, which can take you out of character, and it can ruin your immersion. Oh, my lord, the mighty immersion. And again, I would say, yes, there is a certain meta element to it, and you do have to have a bit of a discussion about game mechanics, certainly at the start, before you become entirely comfortable with them. Although, I was running a game last night, and when I was issuing a compel, which for those who don't know, is basically the GM saying, oh, I see you've got one of these aspects, I'm going to suggest something that could advance the plot and make things more complicated for your character, and if you go with it, I will give you a fate point, which you can spend later on to modify your dice rolls. So, for instance, if you have an aspect, which, remember, is a short sentence summing up your character, that says, I'm being hunted by the Chicago mob, and you're wandering the streets of Chicago, I might say, oh, well, wouldn't it be a shame if the Chicago mob had spotted you and they were sending some of their enforcers to deal with you? Now, when I'm running an introductory game, or when I'm first starting and people are getting used to Fate, I would probably say, I'm offering you a compel. If you accept the fact that Chicago mob are going to have enforcers come after you, you can have a fate point. However, as in the Fate Star Wars game I ran a couple of days ago, all I really have to do is say, oh, wouldn't it be a shame if the Chicago mob enforcers kept them up on you now, and just wave a fate point about. And the player character doesn't have to say, yes, I accept the compel. They can just reach forward, take that token, or just give me a nod, and the game progresses as it would have done. So I think as you move on with the mechanics, this whole sort of immersion breaking thing that people sort of go on and on about disappears almost entirely. But to be honest, even if you're running a sort of introductory game and you do have to like highlight the mechanics a bit more, I would say it's no worse than when you're running an introductory game for any other system and you have to tell someone what the mechanics are. For instance, if you're running D&D, does it break your immersion when you have a new player and the GM says, oh, you need to roll 2d6 for your broadsword? Now, obviously, the character has no conception of what 2d6 are or exactly how much damage their broadsword is doing. It's a game mechanic. It's an out-of-character mechanism to enable the game to move forward. And to be honest, I've never found it terribly difficult sort of stepping back a little bit, doing the game mechanics bit, and then stepping back into my character and becoming immersed in it. I've never found these small breaks for game mechanics to be particularly immersion breaking or ruinous of any games. It's something that's been happening in RPGs since well before I started playing Fate, almost since I've actually started playing RPGs. Occasionally someone will have to ask a question and say, oh, what do I need to roll for this? What dice mechanic do I use? What skill do I roll? Etc. And normally the GM tells them, and then the game carries on as it was doing previously, and everyone jumps back into their character. It doesn't break the game, it doesn't ruin the game or any BS like that. So, another reason I would give this as a game to someone is the focus of Fate Accelerated is squarely on the story. The story that you are trying to tell with your friends, your players, etc. And this has led to some people calling it a storytelling game rather than an RPG, which is fine, to be honest, as long as I'm enjoying playing it and I'm having fun. I couldn't give a halfpenny jizz as to whether you call it a storytelling game or an RPG. All I'm bothered about is I turn up, we create a compelling tale between all of us, we roll some dice, we have some fun, we enjoy the game and portraying our characters. That's what matters to me. And Fate Accelerated focuses squarely on telling the story. Whether that's, and one of the main sort of exemplars of that is the use of aspects. As I said earlier, you can check out others of my videos and my blog entries that I've done that talk more about aspects. But essentially you have 5 aspects. Each of these are a small sentence that you come up with that helps define your character. So if I was coming up with a character for a Star Wars game, I might say I'm a cocky smuggler with ties to the rebellion. That would be an aspect. And the way this can be used is if at any point during the game I'm making a dice roll and I think that my roll's maybe not particularly good enough, I can spend a fate point to invoke that aspect. So I might say, oh, I'm on the castle run and I'm trying to avoid Imperials. Well, I am a cocky smuggler, so I'm going to use my knowledge to avoid them. I can throw a fate point in and I can use that after I'd made my dice roll to either add a +2 to the roll or to re-roll it entirely. And this helps you reinforce the character concept that you have and really bring it into the game in a way that's far more evocative, in my opinion, than just simple numbers. It also lets the GM know what the players want to see in a game. So for instance, again, to use Star Wars as an example, if I'm playing a game and someone says I'm being hunted by the Hutts as one of their aspects, I know they want to see the Hutts, criminals and smugglers in a game. And I think as a GM, it'd be foolish of me not to want to put stuff in that the players want to see. But instead of me having to sort of like dance around the subject and find this out in play, or just run a session 0 and ask people about it in advance, it's all there for me on the character sheet. I can look at the players' character sheets and see this. And it also helps the other players know what their fellow party members are interested in. And you can work out how to use these aspects together in order to create a sort of group that gels and works together extremely well. So, to answer this question 24, if I were going to give a game to someone, what game would I give? I would say that it will be this game, Fate Accelerated. It's a very cheap and cheerful game. It's easy to pick up. It has a high focus on story, allows you to use pretty much any genre and setting you can think of with comparative ease. And it's an extremely enjoyable system, in my opinion, to play. I highly recommend you give it a go, although I do recognise that it does take a little bit of a sort of an adjustment of thought, particularly for people who are used to more sort of traditional like level class based and skill based games. But I think you should give it a go. You might be pleasantly surprised. And as a sort of cheaper game, it's certainly one I would give to people who have expressed an interest in role playing or storytelling games, and hopefully it would lead them further into the hobby. So until I see you next time, take care and happy gaming.